Bleach sucks. Bleach falls off after Soul Society. Bleach has bad writing. Kubo can only make good character designs and create hype fights. If you have ever heard these takes or takes like this, you were lied to about Bleach. And with Bleach's relevance resurging, I think now is the perfect time to clear up many of the lies and misconceptions that have been created over the years of Bleach discourse. Now, among the bad or misinformed takes that I have seen on the internet, the idea that Bleach is bad or poorly written is one of the most prevalent takes I've seen when it comes to the slander of this series. Whether it comes in the form of the series simply being called mid by fans of different series, or people going so far as to say that Tite Kubo, the author of Bleach, is a bad or incompetent writer that doesn't know how to do much besides create good character designs and draw hype fights. It's pretty obvious that the opinion on Bleach's writing and quality is generally speaking rather low. The irony of these statements is that in actuality, Bleach is so nuanced and complex in its writing that it often goes over the heads of people who would claim this. Rather than these criticisms meaning that the series of Bleach is something that has no depth beyond a surface level, what this truly reveals is that they lack the ability or desire to understand the symbolism and prevalent themes within this manga. For all those skeptical of Bleach having this supposed depth, let me ask you a question. What would you say Aizen's purpose or main theme is? What is he meant to represent, and what is his core message that he pushes to the audience? I'll give you a second to think about this.
This is your local station 98.5, The Nick, where TJ...
I don't know, but I hate it.
Now, if you could answer this question, congratulations. You most likely enjoy Bleach and understand the depth that it has. And if you could not answer this question or simply think that Aizen has no deeper purpose in being strong, you fall into the very large camp of people who only looked at Bleach on its surface. This isn't an inherently bad thing, by the way. However, when you realize that Aizen alone has an 80-page analysis breaking down and analyzing the Buddhist symbolism that he is tied to and represents, you may realize that the problem is not that Bleach lacks substance to draw from, but you personally lack the desire or ability to detect that said substance. It's also very telling to me that many are able to call Pain the greatest shonen antagonist because they completely understand and comprehend his character and the cycle of hatred that he mentions in his fight against Naruto. I genuinely believe that if a similar level of understanding was grasped with Aizen, he would be considered in the same tier as Pain, Meruem, and many other well-respected villains in manga. However, the reason he generally is not because he doesn't have the quality to stand up with them, but because he doesn't have the general consensus understanding that these other two characters do. I think this because Kubo's art style, poetic writing, dialogue, character designs, and even fights all play into each other to create a story that has so much intricacy and depth to dig into that the series is anything but surface level. Some would even say that one of Kubo's weaknesses as a writer is that he doesn't get explicit enough with the series considering the demographic, especially when compared to some of his more highly regarded peers in the manga industry like Masashi Kishimoto. Characters like Ukiura have parallels with Ichigo, which in my personal opinion compare to or even surpass the quality of very highly regarded dynamics like Gon and Meruem. The delve into hollowness that Ichigo takes as he enters Hueco Mundo as he becomes more and more like the Espada that he goes to fight against, that compares to Ukiura's journey out of nihilism and the path to finding what the human art is an amazingly handled and genuinely beautiful tale told with them. But because of the stigma surrounding Bleach as a narrative and as a manga, many people simply ignore everything that the series and characters have to offer. What gets even more confusing is that for some reason people like to acknowledge that the Soul Society of Bleach was really good, but then say that right after that Bleach fell off, which was kind of when it had some of its best writing, but we'll get to that later. Characters like Toshiro, Byakuya, Kenpachi, Shunsui, Tosen, Gin, and over a dozen other characters all have stories or tales of similar quality to the best that shonen has to offer, yet they will often be watered down to their most basic and obvious character traits. Many people who have consumed the series think that Kenpachi is just badass, that Gin is just a cool and scary person, that Byakuya is just your typical stoic character, and that Shunsui is just a laid-back captain. And while it's completely fine to not want to dive into what these characters have to offer in their totality, what is not fine is to completely ignore the depth that Kubo does present to you in the series of your own volition and simply slander the series because of your own ignorance on that depth. Not only would you simply be wrong and negative towards a manga and author that quite literally doesn't deserve those slanderous claims, but you would also genuinely be missing out on an experience that I think can change your perspective on anime as a whole. In my opinion, Bleach is just that good. Now, don't twist my words here. I'm not saying that even if you've analyzed Bleach, you have to find it well written. I've just found personally that 90% of the people who do analyze Bleach and who do understand the themes, the symbolisms, and all of the deeper, more nuanced most things to the series tend to like it. I've rarely found someone who analyzed and really got into the series and didn't enjoy it. If you are one of those people, that's perfectly fine. However, majority of the time, people that don't like Bleach or think that it's poorly written are talking out of their ass. Even if for some reason the nuance was too great for you, there are several instances of Kubo's brilliance becoming more blatant within his series, yet even then people decide to refuse to acknowledge him simply because it's Bleach. In any case, I hope that up to this point I've at least covered the bare bones of why Tite Kubo is not only not a bad writer, but an actually excellent one, and why Bleach has more depth than is typically credited to it. Now, on top of Bleach's writing just generally being underappreciated within the anime and manga community, there's also this strange idea that Bleach ever fell off in terms of both quality and popularity, or is like this unpopular manga by any means, which is almost laughable when you consider that it is one, part of the big three, once again a group of manga that kind of popularized and made shonen and manga and anime a little bit more mainstream, two, a top 20 selling manga ever, and three, a manga that did all of this with an anime that didn't reach completion for several years. Mind you, the arc that the Bleach anime left off on was one of the most poorly received arcs in the series, and stopped just before the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, an arc that is almost universally appreciated by Bleach fans, meaning that it did all of this, achieved all of this status with a handicap. Now, I'm assuming that the idea Bleach fell off comes from videos like The Fall of Bleach, or just general misconceptions or misunderstandings within the community when it comes to manga sales and the like. Now, I won't get into a point-by-point debunk of Super Eyepatch Wolf's video, that isn't what I intend to do here. However, I will address the main point of contention I have with this video, and generally the narrative surrounding it, which is the notion of Bleach falling off in popularity, kind of more specifically in terms of manga sales. Now, when discussing this decline in sales and Bleach falling off, it's a bit difficult, or at least a bit more nuanced than you would be led to believe, because Super Eyepatch Wolf and others like him who do mention this decline are correct. Objectively speaking, Bleach's sales do see a decline after they hit an extremely high peak in popularity of volume sales. However, the problem with associating this decline in sales to the series falling off, that it ignores quite a bit of context with not only the business of manga sales itself, but also ignores the situation surrounding Bleach as a whole. Not only did Bleach as a series get sort of shafted in terms of the promotion department, with the magazine promoting the series less and less over time, but with the anime also being halted, the main way for the series to be promoted or pushed to a new audience was very limited. What's also ignored is that almost every manga, including One Piece, the best-selling manga ever, has had a peak in their sales at one point in time, and then steadily declines until they reach the end of their series, reaching this sort of middle point. This is because typically once an anime blows up or has a lot of commotion stir up around it with an adaptation that draws attention, a massive influx of new viewers will be drawn to the series, causing them to purchase the manga in mass. Because a massive amount of people are buying multiple volumes from a series that has a backlog of volumes, this makes the series sale inflate and skyrocket. After these new fans are attracted to the manga, some will eventually fall off, some will catch up, and that means that they can only buy manga at the speed of volume releases, essentially meaning that it's very difficult for any series to hit a peak caused by volume backlog once it already happens and maintain that same steady growth. It's not an indication of a series falling off so much as it is an inevitability caused by the structure that Shonen Jump has surrounding manga. Something else that people like to bring up in regards to Bleach's supposed lack of popularity is that in comparison to the other two members of the big three, being Naruto and One Piece, it doesn't have nearly as many sales, which is true once more, but keep in mind, those are like top 10 selling manga ever. Most series don't compare, right? One Piece is the most popular manga in terms of sales ever, and Naruto, I'm pretty sure, is top 3, so Bleach being in that top 20 range and falling behind its peers in the manga industry isn't really saying much, because those are some of the most influential manga ever. What also supports the idea that Bleach never truly fell off is the fact that it sits solidly in the top 15 manga in terms of sales, which isn't something you can do if you fell off to the degree that many detractors like to say Bleach did. Once again, showing the sales of Bleach towards the end of its serialization and using that to say the series isn't popular, never was popular, or just fell off, ignores that the entirety of that arc that was in the manga's kind of conclusion didn't have an anime to push it. So for Bleach to be able to garner this amount of popularity with an incomplete anime is impressive in and of itself. I'm pretty confident that with Bleach being pushed by Shonen Jump once more and its anime completion finally being a reality, the popularity of the series will inevitably go up. Bleach is a series that for the past several years has been quite disrespected, in all honesty. Even with all the things that I have covered and debunked within this video, including the claims of lack of depth, arguments of Bleach falling off in quality and in popularity, and many other things, I feel that within this video I've been able to cover at least a decent chunk of the most prominent and heinous misgivings that are pointed at Bleach as a series. If you are someone who hasn't read Bleach before and has only heard these negative things about the series, or even someone who hasn't read the series in a while, I genuinely recommend giving the manga another shot, especially with the hype of Bleach building back once more. Once again, if any of these arguments were things that you have heard over the past few years, you were lied to about Bleach, and I hope that this video was able to clear up at least some of those lies.